Today on the cluttered Lemax workbench repair, we're going to try and fix this. If you can see, it's turned on, spinning the wheel back and forth. There's no volume. The characters actually do their thing. Zoom in a little bit. He comes up, comes out. He came out. Next will be the crematorium aspect. There you go. Undertaker went back in. Going in. Getting incinerated by multicolor LEDs. And then the door will proceed to shut. Now the system's going to reset to start the cycle over again. And this is loose. We'll have to tighten that with a drop of glue. On this unit, if you turn it off, it'll turn itself back on to reset itself. So be aware that power's off. It has to go through a complete cycle to bring itself back to its start. Don't force it. Don't kill the incoming power to it until it's done its cycle. The computer chip that runs this can get messed up if it doesn't get all the switches in the right spot. The booby traps one is the same way. It's made the same way. So if you have Banshee's booby traps, when you turn it off, it will go through a shutdown cycle and reset itself back to the beginning. And then once it's where it's supposed to be, it turns everything off. This unit's the same way. Going to reset itself back to 0, and then it'll just turn off. Click. So, if you have this on a power strip and you kill the power strip, you can damage it. I would recommend having this not attached to a power strip to where you can let this one turn off using the clicker manually. So, we're going to tear into it and see why it no longer has sound. Alright, as you just saw in the previous intro portion about this house not functioning, it's a sound issue and it rattles. Well, it did. There's something loose inside. I'm thinking the speaker most likely broke free. First I'm going to do is disconnect the power. Cluttered workbench. Sign of somebody who works too much. And carefully I'm going to take it apart without doing any damage, hopefully to the house itself. This is the Mausoleum piece, and it's a more rare one to have fully function. As you saw in the previous video, everything functions but the noise. So we want to keep everything functioning. We're going to, first thing like always, is try and take off the bottom without destroying it too much. That way it can be re-glued back on, which apparently I already screwed that up. This is a new piece that is actually mine. I did purchase it, and it was fully functional. I have video proof of it functioning prior to it going through the mail to get here. So somewhere on its journey across country, it got damaged. This is a piece I've been trying to get for a while, but all the ones I find online are usually broken. Animatronics don't work, sound doesn't work, doesn't work in general, or has missing pieces. Some of the accessories around the top are snapped off. And then I stumbled upon this person who was looking to get rid of it because they didn't need it as part of their porcelain house display. And she sent me pictures and video proving that it was a fully functional house. And I don't have any reason to doubt her. And it showed up. It was packed very well, but just like most things that come through the mail that are fragile, they get broke. I'm happy that I got most of it. A couple of pieces around the edge tore. I'm happy though that it arrived in one piece. So there are apparently 2 access panels on the bottom. Apparently that one is the right there. That's the crypt doors, morgue doors, and this one moves everything else. Next, break out all the glue. This has got that hard resin type glue. Normally I heat it up, but because of the age of this, this is actually a 12-year-old piece. The glue is not really adhered very well, and the parts that are extremely brittle. I'm afraid a heat gun wouldn't do much other than possibly melt the plastic base. Which, if I can, I'm going to get out here in one piece so we can show you. So this is pulling out the crematorium part and the door mechanism. And it's binding up on something. Force it. Of course, when you need a light, you never have one. Or it's got dead batteries. Huh. Light. Well, it looks like I might have to take out the mausoleum doors, or the cooling drawers. Might have to fire up the heat gun after all. Got it. Alright, let's see if this will come out easy and in one piece. Alright. Of course not, because the door actually goes through. Alright, let's see if I can get this recentered. Alright, well, truthfully, I don't know how that one comes out, and I don't feel like breaking it. So, let's see if we can get the big one out first. Apparently I just needed to turn it. Huh. And that would be the reason it doesn't work. One wire is broke off, and the other wire is... oh, wow. This thing got all jacked up inside here. Well, the speaker bouncing around didn't really damage this module, which is off camera right there. But inside here, which is going to be really hard to show you because I really don't want to pull this completely apart to prevent any additional damage. It's got it's beat up a little bit from 3 or 4 ounces of metal and plastic bouncing around inside. So, what has happened is this was glued, I don't know where, but I can see the glue inside, above this circuit board. So it's pointing down, most likely like this. So there's the front. And there's a broken wire up here, probably the one missing. I don't know where this one goes. We're going to have to try and find it and see if we can get this thing back together. And it looks like there's another circuit board underneath those doors with the module. I don't know how to get out because we have 2 ribbon cables that go over here. So we have a broken wire here and we have a broken wire here. I am not sure exactly where this stuff goes. Might have to turn it on while it's partially apart and see what I can find out. I am going to disconnect this plug to make it move easier. Like that. That way I can tip it. Fun process of any project, tracing where everything goes. And because they used cheap solder back then, and honestly still do today, I don't want to put too much tension on these wires because they'll break off themselves. This is probably just an LED plug, since the other red and green one powers this LED board right here. Truly don't know where the wires go. What I'm trying to do is unplug this white connector, which is really hard to do since it's so close to the base. So I can get this out further. Look at that. This white connector looks like it runs the drawers. I could be wrong. It could be right. Could be crazy. We'll find out here in a second. So we are going to put the juice back in it and see what it does. Yeah, those lights are working. And that appears to be it. Oh, I heard the relay click. I think there's a daughter board up in here that helps control all this. Unfortunately, I can't see up in it. That's an inside view of the crematorium. The door should shut here in a second. And reset, and then it should be off. Alright. So, this fella, the mortician, which is off camera right there, apparently he is controlled by the daughter board, which is behind here. But I have a wire here, and a wire on another board sitting inside. It's on the bottom that's broke free from its glue, that's dangling. Where does the speaker go? Circuit board in here gets a ribbon cable of 4 wires. It's attached up in, oh yeah, oh there's a lot of wires in board. Oh, look at that. We have a circuit board is glued to the back, and we have another one that's glued to the top, which would be the roof right about here. I really wish I could figure out how to get this thing out. This also uses very thin enamel coated wires that kind of use to wrap motors and transformers. Not just these thin insulated wires, but actual, just looks like bare copper, but they have a kind of an enamel or lacquered coating. And those are really fragile. It looks like those power the LEDs on the outside of the house, as well as the one that illuminates him from the inside. And it gets fed from the circuit board that's up in here, the one on the back. So, where does the speaker go? I want to say the speaker connects to these 2 prongs right here. It looks like I got a broken tab. Could be wrong. There's really only one way to test it. Now, since I'm not... Oh, that's nice. Wire broke. Alright. So, let's see what I got laying on my bench here. A little bit better quality wire. Little Lemax connector. So we're gonna solder new wires onto both the speaker and the board and see if that's the one. I'm gonna make the wires a little bit longer because I'm gonna glue the speaker in a different spot inside the house. Up inside the center part of this house, literally the middle, facing up since it's laying on its side, is a blank space of just porcelain. So, I'm going to glue the speaker to that porcelain. And hopefully the glue sticks so it doesn't fall down and land on top of the mortician. I mean, it already did, and that was glued a little bit lower. It almost looks like it was glued right above the cremation chamber. Unfortunately, I don't know where it's supposed to be. I can only assume based on what I see for glue. Might as well get the soldering iron up to temperature. So this is trial and error, just based on looking at the circuit board. It's gotta be kind of hard to see. But on the circuit board, the wire that just broke off was on this outer one, which again is going to be really hard for you to see. Let's put a tip in it. This pin here, the top edge of the board, there's two pins on the right that are protrude higher. The one speaker wire was on the one on the right. The other one has a broken piece that's sticking out of the solder. I'm assuming it's for this. I have no idea what that wire is. I'll look once I plug it back in, and if we can get the speaker working, I'll try and trace it some more and see where it goes. These two contacts, if I trace them back, go to two different connections on this chip. The sound programming chip should be right there. It's a blob chip. It's a chip that's just covered in a goop of resin. Alright. Soldering iron is up to temperature. Get out some nice solder. Yep, up to temperature. Gonna pre-tin the connection so I can remove this crappy solder. Those who don't know what this is a solder sucker. What I do is you wet the solder with new solder so it's pliable, and then suck it out. And now I can use fresh solder for the wires. So, and if you don't know how to solder, there is a lot of YouTube videos out there. If you have a chance, I would recommend going to Big Clive and search for his videos on how to solder. He is a very smart man and knows what he's talking about. Alright, pre-tin. Didn't hold it long enough. Slid out of my finger. Pre-tin the wire, stick it on the solder blob, and let it cool for a little bit. Some websites tell you to cool them for a minute. Usually after about 5 seconds you can, as you saw, lift it without any problems. Careful, this is hot. This soldering iron is about 350 degrees centigrade, which if something like 600 and something, 700 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't quote me on it. I'm not really good at doing the conversions in my head when it gets above about 150. And I'm going to do the same thing to the board. So both wires are now attached to the speaker. And I'm going to wet the two pads on the board. First I'm going to move the green wire so I don't melt it. Again, this is extremely hot. Wet it. Wet it. There are multiple techniques, and there's multiple types of solder suckers out there. I can just use the cheap one. You can use a solder wick. I know, like the person I referenced, Big Clive, he uses solder wick. I am not a fan of it. I have used it, I do own it. If I can find it, I'd show it to you. See, I keep it really handy because I use it so much. still sealed, but it's a flat piece of copper mesh that you then stick over the solder and heat it, and it absorbs the solder like a solder sucker, except it uses just the transfer of heat. Solder likes to follow the heat, so wherever the hot is, the solder will follow. It's not that good at defying much gravity though, so don't have a steep angle. So do is I'm not going to solder this second wire on in case this is not the speaker one. So we are going to test it. Lights. I like it, except I'm not getting a good connection. Alright, so that definitely sounds like that's where this is supposed to go. Sorry how loud that was. Alright, now turn it off, let it reset, which as you saw is not the fastest, but it is what it is. And we're going to have to re-glue everything in square so nothing binds. But next thing is I got to figure out what this other wire is. It's a white wire, kind of looks like this one here. And it's a thinner wire, so it's about the thickness of the speaker wire that broke, which also runs the LEDs in the dome. So there you go. I don't know if you can hear it when it shuts off, but there's a click. What you're listening is, you can see right in here. It's a micro switch. Basically what it does is it goes back till that clicks. Most likely what it does is it tells the computer, probably through capacitive discharge, that it is back and reset to its full upright position. Apparently this screw is backing out, so we're going to put this screw in. It might have jumped threads when the speaker smacked it in shipping. It may never have been put in correctly at the factory. I don't know. But since I want this thing to work and work correctly, and hopefully work for a long period of time, we're going to fix it the correct way. And don't misunderstand, that doesn't mean I don't fix things the correct way. Sorry, clutter's on my way. Alrighty. There's an LED in the back that the glue broke free. It's glued to the back of the house. Again, it just illuminates him. Here's two lights on the inside that illuminate the mortician. This one on the front side is attached with that hard resin. The one on the back just had a little drop, and it didn't really hold worth a darn. I see the glue spot for the circuit board, and I see the glue spot for the speaker. Again, I don't like where the speaker was, mainly because if it falls, it will land right here, which is why I think this board, the screws got tweaked. But there is a big old flat spot up top. So Let's figure out where this wire goes. Let's move some stuff around. Actually, the speaker would fit right here. That might be an option too. Instead of gluing it to the top, which is directly above this, or gluing it to the side, which is directly above that, I wonder if I can just, like I did here, clip it on, because the spacing's damn near perfect. Just like, and that might have been where it was, and these glue spots are just sloppy glue joints, or they were supposed to hold these wires out of the way and they just broke free from age. But alright, that's on pin 3. Pin 3 goes to this. Alright, now we're gonna kill one of the lights. I'm gonna set this inside and I'm gonna see if it functions, because I think the wire that's broke is a redundant wire. Since the wire that's broke that's in here, both ends of it, there's two wires soldered on the same pad. Both ends of that wire on that pad go to the same place. So I want to double check all the lighting, which doesn't work because I disconnected this and this. Now I'm just going to set everything in here and set it back on its bottom so I can turn it back on and have it function correctly. It's not designed to run on its side. Some of the ones, the videos I've showed you where it's running on its back, those houses can run sideways. This house, because of the way they have the mechanism, especially for these drawers, is really tough because it's just a thin plastic bar. It's not designed for lateral movement. So you do have to be careful with some of these so you don't break them any more than they are when you take them apart. There are two alignment clips on the arch of the door. They're tough to see because they're very, very small. The door has a groove and a blank spot. If you ever take it apart, you'll be able to see it really well and, of course, feel it. Those alignment clips are what keeps the door centered. And that's what I'm trying to get lined up, as well as get all the wiring in there without breaking anything. Let's, before I forget, let's get rid of that glue. Alright, bottom's in. Now we just need the top. Alright, so now that speaker came off. If I do mount it here, I'm definitely going to put some glue on it just to keep it doing what it's doing. Alright, this is going to take a little finagling and finessing and get more of that glue off. Apparently the door frame moves out. That might help. Alright, take 17. Or attempt 17. Oh, hold on. Apparently I unplugged the LEDs. There we go. One thing about these animated houses is they use a rat's nest of wires. They go everywhere. What I'm trying to do is get them to clear the power port that charges it, because apparently they're getting caught. That might work. That is apparently what I'm caught on. The incoming power. Alright, we're gonna turn off the soldering iron. I don't know if you can see this moving here, but this is a plastic facade that's glued on the top, and then the LED goes through it, which helps hold it in, but it clips onto the door. Unfortunately, I'm not having very much luck getting this thing back in. So, I'm going to have to play with it a little bit until I figure out how. What I'm going to do in the meantime is fire up the glue gun and at least glue in the LED that's hanging on the inside as a start, and re-glue the circuit board that's hanging down in here back to the back up. So we'll return here shortly once I get the glue gun warmed up and get that LED tacked in, because that LED is also hanging onto the circuit board and I don't want to break the wiring to it. So I'd rather glue it back in and make sure it works than do everything twice. Alright, I wanted to give you a quick update. I was able to prop it up with a water bottle, but the broken wire controlled the extra lights in here. As you can see, they're all coming on now. So it's the lights that make the specters glow on the top. Just wanted you to see it real quick before I figure out how to get this back in. So as soon as I can drop this thing in without it binding and breaking more wires, we'll be good to go. This little circuit board right there, it's just a distribution board for the LEDs, and the glue spot is directly below it. I'm going to re-adhere it, let it sit for a minute, and then try and drop the center back in. So as soon as that's done, be right back. Alright, it has been repaired. It took a lot of finagling, but if you can turn this unit upside down and drop it in, it'll work better. I turned the volume down now that it actually functions. You see everything is back. I'll try and get a close-up, but right there you can see that tab, and then that's the one on the door of the guy we took out. Then there's one in the house right about here on both sides. Make sure those are lined up, or else you'll have a hell of a time getting it back in. You can see everything's working like it's supposed to. The bottom has been glued on, not the foam. On one of the other ones it shows you how to glue it. Just make sure when you glue it in that nothing binds it up. And you can see that's what the LEDs did. Now they all light up like they're supposed to. It makes all the faces glow. And I did end up gluing in the speaker pointing down on top of the crematorium. So it's up inside here, pointing down, so that the magnet is pointing up towards the dome. Whoops, right here. So the magnet is technically behind those windows. So, but it all functions. We got sound. She's good to go. So the mausoleum has been repaired. Thanks for watching. Quick addition, since I had sealed packages, this is solder wick. As you can see, it's just a braided flat copper that you stick on your soldering iron on top, like so, across the joint, like that. And this is supposed to absorb the solder. You can add flux to this to help the solder wick onto it, but this is what I was referring to earlier in the video. I myself, again, prefer using the pen. I have used the wick. I'm just not as big of a fan of it as other people are. As you saw, the house is complete. The only thing left to do is to reattach the foam base, and that's it. When you center it, make sure the door doesn't bind, the primary door that the mortician comes out of, because that's the biggest issue. Make sure those tabs I showed you line up on the two uppers and the two centers, and you're good to go. But if you can turn it upside down and find something to rest it on, as you saw, I used a water bottle. It'll help you from breaking off, things like that. That would be just more glue work. That's why we have hot glue and super glue, or crazy glue, or any other quick adhesion glue. But if you can avoid it, it's great. Also, soft foam works too. If you have a big piece of soft foam, maybe about 3 to 4 inches thick, from like a couch cushion, cut off a square, you can tip it upside down, and it helps equalize the pressure on your fragile pieces. Leave any comments or questions in the description below, and thanks for watching.